using my new camera here and it's giving up a feed. There we go. Now the feed is clean. It's getting focused. You know what we do. Part of my show is making sure we're in focus. Uh, and not just any kind of focus, the right focus, focusing on the right things. I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at the thumbnail. I just threw it up so it'll show up later on. But the title of this show and the reason we're conversing today live on a Saturday afternoon, anytime is a good time, man, especially when it's something you're doing that's positive, right? They say on Saturday we're supposed to be chilling. I'm chilling. All my work is done. And this is really the fun part of my work. Oh my goodness. Wow, what you see here is basically a week's worth of work that has culminated at me deciding to it's time to stop messing around. The capabilities. I got the software. I got the camera. Why not do what I've intended to do for so long? And it's impromptu today, and the format will get more structured, I'm sure, and I'll get better at this. Just like everything, man. We work, and then so and then we figure it out as we go. So I'm building the plane, the ship, as we sail, as we fly. But I think I'll bring you something that's entertaining. So I'm just giving it a minute for anybody who's maybe surfing or fishing around on what am I doing here? Oh, this is for my YouTube crew, my crowd. So welcome to the inaugural flight of the legacy of learning, which the second thing. I did something already, but nothing even close. And as I always say, music is life, man. So you always hear music in the background playing. And since I'm from somewhere else, my musical background incorporates that as well as everything else the United States has to bring. I'm from the Caribbean. So, anyway, the topic of our talk today, and I'm glad if anyone's listening that you're here. If not, it's just me on a solo creep, and I'll do this for as long as people start listening. No worries. But it's the old adage, the old debate of education versus vocation, or formal 4-year college versus finding what we would call today a trade. Now, this argument has been going as long as men were able to choose between finding a trade and going to 4-year college. It became a particular debate and of particular, I would say, focus for the Black community or Black people in this country around the ending of slavery, when we were trying to figure out what to do. And two gentlemen came together, one from an elite status, from educated folk with money, and another, a freed slave who had to work his butt off to become and to have something. Now, this debate between these two men has been going on, I guess, for a long time, as long as there have been aristocrats and people with money, and then people without money trying to make it. And in my opinion, to give it up front straight away, I think they're both right. Neither of them are wrong. Just depends on your perspective in life, where you are, what you're up to, and what you're doing. But I strongly believe that you do need a vocation, you need a trade, you need a skill, a high paying skill, something that no one could ever take away from you. And you also need to be enlightened. Now, it depends on what side of the tracks you're coming from. If you're very much like Mr. W.E.B. Du Bois was, and I'll read a little bit about him and tell you about his background. He came from an elite family at that era in time, for Black people to be educated and to also have, a college degree and come from money was it's rare today it was even more rare back then. And that's who W.E.B. Du Bois was and where he came from. So his perspective on life was based on, hey, I got stuff. I don't think I'll have trouble entering into the halls of people that speak to make money, people that are educated to make money. And so he valued education, enlightenment over vocation. He didn't have to find a vocation. So, yes, we do need to be enlightened. And Washington came from obviously where most of us come from pretty much the bottom, from and making it to the top, from nothing, from digging it out the dirt kind of situation, and making himself into the man that he became. And he championed getting a vocation, a skill. So at the time when this debate was going on, so you tell me what you think. There were uneducated black men, slaves, former slaves, and obviously women, but men in particular, that had to find a way to get stuff going in this country. Now, college was a laugh. I mean, come on. We're freed people, and I don't even like using these terms and words because I don't even like giving the oppressor the power. But we were people released and out of something. And by the way, once someone lets you go, they can always go back and get you because they let you go. You have to take your freedom, and that's the only way for you to really be free. That's a side note. But anyway, at the time, being so-called freed, we had to figure out how to start economies. Now, college wasn't an option. I'm not sure when the first black college and if that needs to be deviled into, but the first black colleges, I'm sure, didn't start somewhere around the late 1700s, early 1800s, if that. So college was not an option. So Du Bois was very much delusional in regards to that. And Washington, I believe, as regular as a guy he was and so-called not educated, I think he won the debate of that day. He was very right in that time frame and that time of day. We all needed skills. We needed high-paying quality skills so that we can go out and build our communities, number one, and then create an economy, number two. Both the same thing to me. It would be hard to build a community without creating economy. Economy moves money, incites trade, and then people with one skill can trade another skill for another skill or the resources of another by ways of an economy. And money is used to quantify these skills. So we agree on money and then we trade skills based on this money. So we needed an economy, but we also needed to build physically, build our community, our houses, our roads, our churches, our institutions. And we needed men to put it down with their hands and their brains and their brawn. And it's one of the trappings and the delusion of the elite. They really think that they're elite without working folk. What allows people to go to college and aspire to be intellectuals and educate themselves and, do the mess, I'm better than you type of thing. They couldn't do it without the person that built the university with their hands, without the janitor that cleans it up, without the tech people that work on the technology these days, the regular, so-called regular people, men in most of these jobs, hardworking jobs that keep our society together and build it, move it forward. These type of people, so-called educated people, and I'm not putting myself in any one category. I'm educated and I have vocations. So I truly believe in both as being the path. But people on the one side need to understand the education side that without the people that actually do all the work, you couldn't go to college. There wouldn't be no country for you to go to college in. There'd be no institution upheld by millions of hardworking, regular people, men and women, to make these places run. So it's a false argument, but it's an argument that is only posed by people that have the luxury to do so, and that's the educated. So that's where we were at the time. And I advocate for, as I said before, both. You know what I mean? You got to find a skill, a high paying skill, especially in this time and era. Back then, even more so. And, but along the way, it's just the order, right? But along the way, with the fruits of your labor, the seeds you plant, the tree that grows, and the fruit that grows off of it, you can then go ahead and become enlightened. You can use your hard work and the benefits of that, the money, to then go take a class in something, find out a little bit more about geography, or I'd like to know about what it is to live in this region of the world. Maybe I'll take a trip. Now, all these things are along the lines of enlightenment, but you can't get there without a strong foundation. And that's what building a legacy is about. It begins, and this is the channel called Learning of Legacy, by the Legacy of Learning, pardon me, my own channel name. So let's take it back to where it belongs. Welcome to the Legacy of Learning. And the foundational portions of what we're talking about preempts both of these concerns. In order to learn a trade, which, by the way, can take as long as getting through college and longer to even master, you have to have basic rudimentary skills along the lines of reading, writing, communicating, right? And math. So you need these basic skills no matter where you go. So depending on who you are, neither of these conversations even worth having, because I'm a black man, so let me speak to us and about us. The numbers are crazy these days, being raised by 80% females and then ending up with fourth grade reading levels is where we typically begin. Now, you could smirk at that statement, but the facts are the facts. You know, if 80% of our children were being raised by women and by men, I'm sorry, and our boys were reading at fourth grade reading level, the blame would lie squarely on us. In fact, the blame lies on black men anyway. So just imagine if that were the case. So let's look it right in the face and call a spade a spade. That aside, that's a whole nother topic, a whole nother show. But if we're already starting off in this country as being neglected, forgotten about, undereducated, and literally disenfranchised and left out in the cold, wondering about a 4-year education and beyond and going to grad school and all this other stuff is probably the last thing we can ever entertain. But we can entertain getting a skill, because we have to have a skill. No one's going to come save us. They don't spend as much on resources for black men or men that they would spend for any other demographic, in particular women. So we know, as a man, the shelters are little to none. The options are low. So if you don't get a skill, you're done for. You can get all the college education you want. I've never gotten a job, and I've had a plethora of them based on my college education. In fact, the studies show that a college educated black man is not more marketable. He's not more hireable than a white boy that got out of high school but already has a record, a criminal record. They did studies on this where they would take resumes with names and basically push them out there into the market, and they found out that black men with names that identify with black people were being selected out of the process. In fact, even if they got into the interview process, they were more likely to be given or offered a job that was lower than the job that they applied for. I'm just giving it to y'all for real. White boys, on the other hand, in this same exact study with criminal records, were being selected. And upon interview, if they were someone that was personable that they were likable, they are more likely to be offered a job, that the same job, and then also opportunities, other jobs that are higher paying than the ones or the one that they applied for. So that's just a small snippet of what black men go through. So do we use then this college degree and walk into a place and say, pardon me, I got it. I got this degree. It's very much like the slaves used to come home with their from war, or our black men used to come home from war with our uniforms and going through the South. You're more lynchable than ever now. We were literally lynched for serving this country. So do you think a black man showing up with a degree to an institution, now it's kind of masked, now it's kind of subtle, but do you think they really want someone smarter than you or the potential to replace them? Never mind the gravitas we bring as black men to an office. Really, a black man that's together walks into an office with a bunch of white boys, a bunch of white women. Who do you think the women are going to desire? They desire us anyway. But anyway, I digress slightly. We're not set up to succeed through the current system yet. We are educated by them. We're put to school by, put through the entire process by them. When I say them, everyone else but us. And then we're expected to succeed in these institutions of higher learning. All of these institutions suffer from the same psychology, the same software that this country started off with. And that is one of disenfranchisement. There's one rule that all institutions in this country harbor and hold on to. That is elitism for a certain group and then keeping down the other. And people think, oh, this is crazy. They don't think like this. Yes, they do. We just don't understand the battle and the war that's being fought. For them, it's a war of genetics. They know if they mix with us, they are going to disappear. So it's on, baby. They knew that from the beginning. They knew as soon as their white female ended up in the slave quarters and a child was born, where the child came from. They quickly realized that the BS they were kicking to keep us down, to convince us that we were something we weren't, or that we're not who we are, they knew right away who we were, that we were genetically dominant. And that's where all this stuff comes from. But anyway, back to the debate between W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. So let me just give you a little bit about the background of my man. Where is he? I took a little something here. Let's talk about E.B. Du Bois. And this is brought up. E.B. Du Bois was a non-traditional. He went through a non-traditional schooling that was given to him through. Oh, let me read the words exactly. I'm trying to abbreviate for speed, but Du Bois' non-traditional schooling gave him a distinctive perspective on education. Born of free parents in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, he saw his education in preliminary white elementary and high schools as a model. So he went to school with white boys. Basically, he's brainwashed. I'm just going to say straight up. And that's what happens to a lot of us. We buy into this thing, and our women are doing it too. They've been doing it for decades now. That once you go to school, you are better than your counterpart. You're better than whoever around you. In this case, Du Bois is better than all other black folk because he went to college at a time that we could not. But our women are doing it these days. You guys just don't know how much you're being programmed. These institutions are designed literally to make you think you're more elite than your counterparts. Meanwhile, you're ending up with more debt than anyone, and you're having to pay that back, and you're still not out earning your black man. So whatever that's all about is crazy. But Du Bois was one of the originals of that. He just happened to be a man. So he's educated, and he went to university, and he also, got postgraduate degrees. So I mean, he's obviously thinking like a white boy during that, because who amongst us were able to do that during that time in great numbers? So this is where he was coming from. Um, my man Washington, as it says here, was born into slavery and argued for freedom to receive an industrial focused education, believing Black Americans should learn useful trades that were relevant in post Civil War America. Right? So that's in a nutshell who he was and where he came from. And yes, he was absolutely right. And today, let's fast forward it. This conversation is about vocation, versus college education or 4 year degree. And we throw these around because we know that the educational process for a trade can be more rigorous, more taxing, and it may take even longer than a 4 year degree. So when we compare these two, it's just simply comparing a trade as opposed to just going to school to read books and get enlightened and maybe get a degree in, I don't know, business. Not really a trade. In fact, it's quite useless. Don't get mad. I have a degree in business, international relations in both international business and international relations and politics. Now, if you're going on to law school or grad school, much like W.E.B. Du Bois did, then yeah, you're setting yourself up right. But you're still setting yourself up to be a wheel in the cog because you're going to join institutions that, quite frankly, won't be answering your knock at the door. And once they do, they're not going to welcome you in with open arms. You know what I mean? And that's just the fact of the matter. So um, the debate between the two is really a nil debate for me in this at this point in my life, having done both. But what you need for both are the rudimentary skills. So that's what I really wanted to talk about. Yes, get your trade out of the way, and hopefully your trade and your 4 year degree coincide. But if you can get a high paying skill without having to pay for a 4 year degree that will put you in the top 20, 15, or 30% of income earners, I believe that's the route you should take because it's something you can get a lot quicker, can master, get to mastering it and getting it mastered a lot quicker and have it pay you for the rest of your life. Now, once you get that skill intact, then of course, read as many books as you can, even go back to school, get your degree. At that point, who cares? But to literally give up a portion of your youth where you should be working hard and learning a skill just to learn some esoteric group of electives that they give you in college, I think it's a dumb thing to do. Literally, college is for fools if that's why you're going. But if you're going for science, technology, math, engineering, the STEM route, then yes. And even in those avenues, they're going to pay you well, but you don't necessarily have to go to a 4 year college to get those skills, right? So that's what this talk is about. So, but these skills I'm talking about, this book here, the Legacy of Learning book that's behind me, sitting on this thing that I try to light up before we do what I'm doing here. It took me a minute or two to get to this stage of my life to be able to pull off everything you're looking at right now. The book written in the back, the camera, the this, the that, all this stuff. And forgive me for just a moment. I think this kind of stuff adds a little bit of drama to the show, which is cool. You can see me moving around. But let me highlight this book so we can talk about it just a little bit. So yeah, The Legacy of Learning, the book behind you that I didn't light up that I was supposed to. Um, that's what this book is about. It's about the foundation. And no matter what route you go, no matter what you do, you won't be able to learn a trade without having math, English, the ability to communicate under your belt and on your tool belt and easy to reach for when you need it. And that's for our vocational side. And you ain't getting into college, you ain't testing in, and your grades won't allow you if you haven't done some of this stuff I mentioned as well and done it to a great degree. So it doesn't matter which way you go, your legacy is based on a strong foundation, basic foundation. And that's what the legacy of learning is about. This channel is everything but that. It's about talking about a bunch of topics today, vocation against education or formal education. That's what we're talking about today. It just came to me and I thought, why not? Let's talk about it. But talking to black men, because that's why I am, young black men, it I wish I had this ability or someone to talk to me and basically lay it out in a way that I can contemplate which route I'm going to go. But I actually did both. I went to university and cosmetology school at the very same time. When I got out of college, the first thing I got was another vocation, which was a license in insurance. So, with a 4 year degree, not a year or two out of college, I already had two vocational certifications, and there were a couple more that added on. And lately, if you haven't tuned in for any reason or we haven't been vibing, my latest skill that I picked up that I've worked on and I'm still working on is coding, you know, database analytics. And I went to a 6, 7 month program for this, not a university. So all these things are interchangeable, but you do need the foundation. So, what's your foundation? Your foundation is learning how to learn and making learning your legacy, because you'll never stop having to learn. Trust me, even in the field you're in now, sit back and act like you know everything and see what happens to you. You're going to fall behind. So, and these rudimentary skills I'm talking about, they layer on top of each other and you grow. So, in order for me to bring this to you, later on in life, I went back to college, junior college, and with the 4 year degree I had already, and I decided, hey, I need to master this camera thing, this thing right here for my business. And it started as marketing. I needed to take pictures and I needed videos so I can get customers for my cosmetology business or my salon in Long Beach. You put something up on Yelp with a picture, you're more likely to get a response. So I found a photographer. First, I had to brand me. That took a minute or two. Who are they coming to see? Then I had to brand my work. That took a couple more minutes. And along the way, it was getting expensive to hire a photographer. So I bought my first camera, DSLR. So I believe it was a Fuji. It wasn't too expensive, but I was happy to have it and thought it was the best camera in the world. And I took a bunch of pictures with it. And it started me doing my marketing for my business. Yet another skill I had to learn. No one's coming to save us. Everything you have to do, trust me, you better learn the ins and outs of it, because if you hand it over to someone else, they're not going to do it the way you need it done. Even if you're not completely skilled at this thing, you need to learn the ins and outs of it so you can delegate and hand out work and know what to expect in return. Mine turned into a passion. The camera became an escape for me, something I can do besides playing sports, basketball in particular, to escape from the world and be in my own world. And it also held a very practical purpose, which was to help me build my business. So what you see in front of me, you're looking at me now, I have my cinematic camera here sitting. Behind me, I have another camera. So let's talk skills. We're going to ratchet down just a little bit. So I literally had to learn film and photography to move my business forward. Once I learned it, and I'm still learning more, and I went to film school and I learned the cinematic process and the ability to write a story, because that's what this is all about. I then brought it back in house again. And after being done with cosmetology and being in the salon with women all day, every day, one day I just said, I'm done. I don't care how much money I'm making. I can't do this anymore. It literally rips against the fabric and goes against the grain of everything I am as a man to be in this environment and to watch our community literally being led and destroyed at the same time by the people that come in and sit down in my chair and talk this crap all day to each other. So I got out of that business and went on to my other things that I was doing and spent time doing those. But none of them were my passion of choice. I was actually a barber to begin with and enjoyed it immensely, but it was something I did out of necessity. I had learned how to cut my own hair got really good at, and my partners at school started asking me to cut their hair. So before I got out of high school, I was a master barber. Now, is it something I would have chosen as a passion? It's something I came to love, but not as a passion, um, because to me, income should be tied to my passion for me. And even though I got to a point where I was making really good money at this, there's only so many clients you could take on any given day in a salon. Even if you get an assistant, even if you start doing women hair, there's a cap on your productivity. And that was one of my problems. I couldn't break in, even though I was making good money. I was making, you know, way above the average as far as income was concerned, but my lifestyle and then the ability to upscale it and move it forward, I wasn't that good. Let's put it like that. Some people are just gifted, and in hair, I was a gifted barber, but as a hairstylist, I had to work and learn everything, and I became proficient. But long story short, it was something that took way too much time out of a day to make the kind of money I was aspiring to make. And then the days were ending and I still wasn't there. And then family and life came and kids and stuff. So my time at the salon would have to double, but my desire to be there would decrease exponentially as well because I have a family, children now. So all those were problems. But the number one problem was literally watching our community being led and destroyed by our counterparts and watching the mindset. And there's a book I'm writing on this, by the way, and it's called Men Aren't from Mars, Women Are Not from Venus. We're all from Earth. And this is based on my 20, 30-year experience of being in the salon and learning things about women that no man would ever learn otherwise. So look forward to that coming out. Now that I'm an author, I guess I owe it to myself and the world to continue what I'm doing and leave intellectual property and pieces of enlightenment for the future. So back to vocation versus education. So the skills I had to learn, you're seeing around me. My other skill, this what you see me doing here, talking in front of this camera. It started with me in entertainment, starting off DJing with my uncles when I was really, really little. And I got good at it, and they used to bring me to parties to start the party, even though I couldn't get in. And then it moved on into my love for rap, which started in New York City before I left in the late 70s, early 80s, dating myself. And it also continued when I came to Los Angeles, which happened to be the beginning of rap here. And I got into rap as a young man in high school, seriously, and started performing. And that's where this comes from. So, school, salutatorian, valedictorian in junior high school and other places. But in school, to get there, I had to learn the basic skills, reading, writing. And the reading and writing part, I was often pushed in situations because of my academic, ability to represent the school. So I was sent to debates and also speech writing contests and summer programs and all this stuff to represent my school at the time. And it also helped me sharpen my ability to speak. And it was, I don't know how we do it. I just don't know how as a kid I was able to do this stuff, man. But I did have a someone strong behind me that I hooked my line to, so to speak, and it was my grandfather. And we'll talk about legacy in regards to grandparents if you have them around, particularly men that we cut off from that. So these are the skills I had to learn, and they took me a long time to get there. The reason I'm bringing this up is because the channel is going to be about your passion and also about finding high paying skilled jobs to help fuel that passion if the two aren't the same. And then the question would be, if anybody's really listening, okay, so what are you doing? Aren't you're doing videography or you're doing YouTube, whatever? Aren't these high paying skills? They can be, but there's always a risk. Yeah. For something that's going to give you a whole lot of benefit, there's risk. You know what I mean? As opposed to something that's going to keep you content and pay the bills. The risks may be low, but the benefits and the rewards aren't going to be out off the Richter scale. They're going to be kind of low over time. So you choose how you want to live your life. So what you're seeing is, yes, a high paying skill and also the foundational work that came behind it. The cameras, the book I had to write. Just writing this book alone, I had to research the entire industry of self publishing. So even though the concept was set, the book was completely written, it took me another 3 to 4 months to actually publish the book properly. And that was based on having to learn that industry. So there's no easy route, guys. And no matter which one you choose. Now, if you're going to go to college, I mean, you better choose STEM and it better be something you can't learn otherwise. So you can't become an MD, a medical doctor, licensed by going to a vocational process. It just doesn't happen. You have to have a degree and then you have to go into med school and all that. And God bless you if you choose that. We need more doctors. And the smarter you are, the more I encourage you to go do something like that. But the give and take and where you end up in life with this puts you in institutions and places you may not feel 100% comfortable in, either during the process nor after, right? So keep that in mind. But if you know that you're a go-getter and you've mastered your rudimentary skills, that you really did what you were supposed to do to get the foundational process of discipline, mindset, knowing your body, then working on your mind, then learning how you learn, and then being able to pick up information. If you're at that point and you have a mindset of being your own man, don't go to college. Find your passion and invest everything into it. And use that foundational stuff that you had to lead you all the way through that. Because you're going to have to learn a whole bunch of stuff. It's not going to be, I've chosen this vocation and now I'm good. No, after that vocation, if you aspire to turn it into a business or to scale it up, you're going to need all these skills that supposedly college purports to give you, but you'll be that much further along and you'll be learning specific skills. If you need to learn how to keep your books, you better learn math. And even if you have an accountant, you better be able to have an accountant check an accountant and be able to check that accountant. You need to be able to read your own numbers and analytics. And that's before you hand it to anybody. That's to understand it and then let them do the hard work. But you need to know what's going on. A la Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of the smartest, intellectual, deepest, maybe not the most socially adept person, but an intelligent man. All of his money was taken by his agents. Kareem shouldn't be broke. I mean, he's not broke at the moment, but he's broke compared to what he should be. Kareem should be a multi-millionaire, and at this point, he should be close to a billionaire with what he's contributed to society and his intellect. The man is the bomb all the way around, outside of personality quirks that people have noted over the years. With that being said, you need to know about the basics, no matter which route you're going. To even get into college, to sum it up, you're going to need the foundation. And in order to maximize and to learn a vocation and to become skilled at that vocation, to make money to take care of yourself and your family, you're going to need these skills to apply not just to the vocation, but to all the things that come along with it. So for me, skill wins out every time over a 4 year college. But if at some point you want to learn philosophy and you want to study with the best abroad after you've made your money, go for it, man. This one's baked. It's done. Black men, get you a skill. And I said it that way on purpose. Black people, our women, support your black men in getting those skills. And do not suppress the masculinity of men around you, because that's what happens with women. Like I said, meaning if you're raising a child by yourself and he's a boy, by the time he's 13, he's going to be physically dominant in that home. Women know this. So all along the way, they're trying to figure out ways to tether you like the baby elephant to this rope and to this post so that when you get to that age, you don't use all of that on them. They fear that moment in time. So we need to understand that process and what it does to a black man. He then has to spend who knows how long the rest of his life, some of us, to figure out how to release ourselves from that tether and let our masculinity and our manhood lead us. So, black men, join together, get yourself a vocation. The ones that are able to go onto universities do that. We're going to need leaders of every type, but get yourself a vocation first. Education is a 4 year education, not the first levels of it, but 4 year enlightenment and post grad work and all this other stuff. That's second, very much so. So that's my take on the subject. Though I've thrown in a bunch of stuff, a bunch of seasoning on top, but Du Bois at the time, especially, was very wrong. And if anyone, and that's the reason why our numbers are dismal in college. For every one black man in college, I think our counterpart women is, what is it, 7 to 8? It's a high number, right? Now, I do recommend going to college even for a brief stint during your pursuit for your vocational work, because you may have to go to a junior college to learn this vocation. Reason why I say go to college, black men, is because you find serious black women there, women in general. So don't limit yourself to black women. And I'm sorry, but if y'all keep coming with what y'all coming with, I used to be an advocate for us sticking together, but it doesn't make any sense anymore. But you go to college to find a woman to help you in your business, to help you in your vocational journey, and to help you throughout life. Serious women go to college. Now you're gonna have to figure out if it's worth it, because once they're there, they think they're better than you. But we'll figure that part out on another show. You guys, thanks for tuning in, and I hope it gave you something that's worthwhile listening to. W.E.B. Du Bois against Booker T was the foundation, education versus uh, vocation. But more importantly, I'm always going to lead you back to your legacy, which is, in this case, a legacy of learning. That process is something you can't get around. Face it forward, tackle it, get it under control, find your passion, and then find enlightenment. All right, you guys? Take care. Appreciate you. Catch y'all next time. I'm out.